Alright, guys, it is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021 at 4:47 p.m. Alright, let's start by taking a look at dailyverses.net. Verse of the day says, "Keep this book of the law always on your lips, meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful." Joshua, verse 1, 8. Alright. Let's start with Space River News on Twitter. I pretty much have this channel, twitter.com/news2river, the number 2 river. That's my Twitter channel. Here's where I share the majority of my news, so check it out. Alright, it says here, no tsunami threat to Hawaii after a 6.6 earthquake happened in Japan. So a 6.6 earthquake happened in Japan, and there was no tsunami threat for Hawaii or the Japan area. Alright, also from NWS Storm Prediction Center, we have day 1 outlook for a slight risk of severe weather across portions of Oklahoma, North Texas, as well as northeast Kansas, southeast Nebraska, not New Hampshire, southwest Iowa, and northwest Missouri. So let's take a look at the image so you guys can take a look and see where the slight to marginal severe weather could be possibly happening. Here we go, above Texas, Oklahoma. So there's 2 spots right there in the middle of the country, and there's a smaller spot between Oregon and Washington here on the western coast as well. So we got some slight to marginal severe weather possibly happening in one day. Alright, guys. Here is Italy from space. I thought it looked funny, but here's the boot of Italy from space. Alright, also tonight from Brad Panovich, we have tonight's SpaceX Falcon 9 Crew 3 launch should be visible along the East Coast. With the time 4+ hours after sunset, no vapor trail illumination is likely, so you'll be looking for small moving dots, booster and capsule separation. Look towards the flight path, and here's the flight path of possible visibility around 9:03 p.m. The SpaceX Falcon 9 Crew 3 launch tonight. Alright, so here's the flight path, and those are the states that could possibly see the launch. Alright. Let's see if anything else. Yep, there was a 3.4 earthquake in the Canary Islands as well. And also, happy birthday to the U.S. Marine Corps. We have thanks for all who have served. Happy 246th birthday to the United States Marine Corps. Alright, guys. Let's start with the stories. We have Vatican loses 135 million in shady London property deal amid allegations of massive fraud. So I'll leave the link to this article so you guys can check it out. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but apparently Vatican loses 135 million in property. Alright, next. Russia sends bombers to fly over Belarus after Poland claims Moscow masterminded the migrant crisis. With the still chaotic and unraveling Belarus-Poland border situation becoming a full-blown crisis in the European Union, which is now threatening further sanctions on the Lukashenko government, the ex-Soviet republic's key powerful ally, Russia, is jumping into the fray. The Kremlin has lashed out, saying it's the European Union that's to blame for the migrant crisis due to its attempt to strangle Belarus. This is the EU is readying fresh sanctions, which plans to close a big part of the border altogether. Russia was specifically responding to Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki's Tuesday mastermind in Moscow. Alright, I'll leave the link so you guys can check this one out as well. Next, Macron confirms France to build new nuclear reactors for the first time in decades. It looks like the love fest for nuclear is officially back on, complementing our bull case for uranium that was first touched upon almost a year ago in December 2020. With every passing day, our core thesis set here last December that uranium stocks are poised for a historic surge. So the reactors will be built to help the country meet its local global warming targets and keep prices under control. Macron said this week he called the decision to continue building new reactors to keep prices down and reasonable 5 months before the country's presidential election. So they're deciding to build nuclear reactors. It says we are doing the first time in decades to relaunch the construction of nuclear reactors in our country and continue to develop renewable energies, Macron said. The move will guarantee France's energy independence, to guarantee our country's electricity supply, and achieve our objectives, in particular carbon neutrality in 2050, he continued. Alright, so France is planning to build nuclear reactors. Alright, next. Snowmageddon. Oh, let me skip back to one. Okay. Relief from high prices unlikely. Analysts say ahead of consumer inflation data release. So high prices unlikely to fall down. It says having seen producer prices soar yesterday, investors closely eyeing consumer prices for any signs that the Fed's transitory inflation narrative is true, and Wells Fargo analyst says it's unlikely sticker shock worried customers will see relief as the persistent supply-side crunch will keep fanning the flames of inflation in the near term. So they'll still continue to keep rising prices. So that's pretty sad to hear. Alright, next. Snowmageddon, an extreme cold wave, buried parts of China and meters of snow. You see these these rescue men trying to walk over the snow that's about waist deep. Alright, it says terrifying blizzard engulfs northeast China in November 2021. Alright, so snowstorms have wreaked havoc in northeast China in recent days, with record snowfall in some parts snarling traffic, disrupting train services, and raising concerns about power supply as temperatures plunged. Traffic in Liaoning province has been severely disrupted, with the majority of expressway toll stations shut as of Tuesday. Passenger stations were also closed, except those in the cities of Dalian and Dandong. Alright. Since the arrival of the cold wave on Sunday, temperatures in northeastern China have plunged at least to 14 degrees Celsius in certain areas by Tuesday. Meteorological departments in Liaoning and the province of Jilin have issued red alerts for snowstorms, the most severe and 4-tier color-coded weather warning system. So buildings are kind of crumbling and falling apart, as you see here. Heavy snow hits northern China, and the buildings falling from the weight of the snow. Alright, it says the region has also stepped up efforts to keep homes warm, with authorities working to increase energy production capacities and increase coal imports, state media reported. China State Grid Corp warned on Sunday of a tight balance between power supply and demand through winter until spring. I had reported earlier in a couple videos before that China was having issues with the power, the electricity. That were trying to rely on some Russian companies to give them power energy, but pretty much they weren't getting through. Apparently, a Russian factory had a fire, and they were not able to give power to China. Alright, next, anomalous king tides flood Georgia and South Carolina, 10.45 feet, or 3.19 meters in Savannah, and 8.51 feet, or 2.59 meters in Charleston. So king tides flooding Georgia and South Carolina. Says officials say a strong storm off the southeastern coast combined with periodic higher tides cause coastal flooding that approach levels rarely seen outside of hurricanes along the South Carolina and Georgia coast. Sunday morning's high tide reached 10.45 feet, and Fort Pulaski just east of Savannah, Georgia. So that's pretty high. 10.45, that's a lot of water coming in. It says in the fourth highest tide in 85 years, the gauge has been in place, and over three higher levels happened in tropical storms or hurricanes, including the record of 12.56 feet in Hurricane Matthew in October 2016. Alright, so I'll leave you the link for this so you guys can check out the tides happening in Georgia. Alright, internal reports say people are starving to death in North Korea as winter looms. It says the warnings are stark and coming from inside and outside of North Korea. Defectors based on South Korea have told us that their families in the north are going hungry. There is concern as winter approaches that the most vulnerable will starve. Problems such as orphaned children on the streets and death by starvation are continuously being reported, said Lee Sang-young, editor of Chief and Daily North Korea, which has sources in North Korea. The lower classes in North Korea are suffering more and more as food shortages are worse than expected, Mr. Lee said. Getting information out of North Korea is increasingly difficult. The border has been closed since January last year to prevent the spread of COVID-19 from China. Even getting messages out of the country to family and friends who have defected to South Korea comes at a huge risk. Anyone caught with an unauthorized mobile phone could be thrown into a labor camp. And yet some people still try to send letters or voicemail via text to their loved ones and to publications in Seoul. Alright, so North Korea has always struggled with food shortages, but the pandemic has made a bad situation worse. Leader Kim Jong-un has compared the current situation in the country's worst disaster in the 1900s, known as the Arduous March, where hundreds of thousands of people died in a famine. The situation is not thought to be bad yet. There are some hopeful signs. North Korea appears to be preparing to reopen the border with China, but it is unclear how much trade and aid will be needed to repair the economic damage already wrought on the impoverished country. This year's harvest is crucial. Last year's crops were partly destroyed by a series of typhoons. The United Nations estimates that the country is short for at least 2 to 3 months of supply of food. So please pray for North Korea and the people in that country who are close to starvation. Please pray for them. Alright, next, more suicides ahead. Drought is forcing farmers in Colorado to make tough choices to survive. It says, not long ago, the red sandstone walls of the Dolores River Canyon in southwestern Colorado towered over roaring rapids that teem with native fish. Now it's largely empty. Drought has left once robust river a ribbon of cobblestones, a trickle of water, and small shallow pools. It's really an unfortunate and tragic incredible canyon with sort of a meek river that was once really a giant, wonderful symbol of the Wild West, said Jim White, an aquatic biologist for Colorado's Park and Wildlife. Low water levels in the river leave fish, bluehead, sucker, and round-tail chub with nowhere to go. Fish have been around on the river for over 1 million years, up to 2 million years, he said. These fish have evolved with low and high flows, so they can handle a certain amount of that, but what they can't handle is essentially a dry channel. The drought is also hitting farmers in Colorado and across the West. There was so little water this year that farmers who use water from the Dolores River to irrigate their fields got a fraction of what they usually get. Those farmers are forced to gamble on a future that's becoming less and less likely to predict. So please pray for the people in that canyon who are basically having to choose very difficult futures for their crops and their livelihood. And finally, Armageddon Live. NASA plans to crash a spacecraft traveling at 1,500 miles per hour into an asteroid next year in a test of planetary defense. Says Armageddon, NASA to deflect an asteroid in test of planetary defense in 2022. In the 1998 Hollywood blockbuster Armageddon, Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck race to save the Earth from being pulverized by an asteroid. Next year, we'll experience it live. NASA plans to crash a spacecraft traveling at a speed of 1,500 miles per hour into an asteroid next year in a test of planetary defense. The Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, is to determine whether this is an effective way to deflect the course of an asteroid should one threaten the Earth in the future. NASA provided details of the DART mission, which carries a price tag of $330 million, in a briefing that reporters on Thursday said from NASA's planetary defense officer. Although there isn't currently known asteroid that's on impact course with the Earth, we do know that there's a large population of near-Earth asteroids out there. The key to planetary defense is finding them well before they are an impact threat. We don't want it to be in a situation where an asteroid is headed towards Earth and then have to test this capability. So they're testing that in 2022. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Hit like and subscribe for more news, and see you guys next time. God bless you guys.